This is not the sermon. The sermon, it's pretty clear, was preached back in June, and words weren't even used. The missionaries became the mission. And so I'm not here to preach a sermon. I'm really here just to give you a suggestion. We started this series in the Garden of Eden, and we were talking about trash, if you remember. I was remiss not to mention our mayor of Mount Sterling. He may be known for several things when he leaves office, but one thing he will definitely be known for is picking up trash. I see Al Botts in the mornings lots of times picking up trash in our neighborhood, and so I was remiss not to mention that because I think our city and our community does a really good job about trash. And some of you know that once or twice a year they let you take whatever you want out to the curb, right? I think it's spring cleanup, and sometimes they do it again in fall, and you can pack all that stuff that you really don't want anymore and dump it on the curb. Do you know? I mean, for some of you people, this is like Christmas all over again. You know who you are. I'm not calling you out, but there are people that when this happens, they start cruising the neighborhoods, right? It's like a yard sale you don't have to pay for. And you'll see them, I've seen them, looking around, looking for something that someone has discarded. I'm not judging those who do this. In fact, many of us have a table that is a testimony. Many of us have a mirror that's got some memories. Most of us have a picture that is its own prophecy. So I'm not judging these yard sale picker-uppers because you know what they say about one man's trash. Look at the map for a minute with me. I want to point something out for you. So if you're looking at the city, this is the old city of Jerusalem, and right in the middle of the map is the Temple Mount that we talked about last week and the week before. And then last week we were in the Garden of Gethsemane, which is to the right. But if you look left on the map, you'll see the word Golgotha. And I think you see some dashed lines that indicate that it's outside of the old city. Golgotha was Jerusalem's trash dump. It was called Skull Hill. That's what Golgotha meant in Aramaic, the place of the skulls. Why? Because that's where you took the refuge, the trash. Golgotha wasn't inside of the city. It wasn't where the temple is. It wasn't where the palaces were. It was the trash heap. That's where Jesus was crucified. To put it another way, Jesus was kicked to the curb. He was taken out with the trash. And you know what they say about one man's trash. Now, being taken outside of the gate should ring a bell with each of you. Remember where we started? Adam and Eve. They were taken outside the gate, right? It was clear that they were not getting back in on their own. There were people protecting the garden and a flaming sword, if you remember the sermon. They weren't going back on their own. But I want you to watch what John does in his gospel for us, and maybe you never knew this was even there. He sneaks a verse in that is trying to point us towards something. Listen to this verse. At the place Jesus was crucified, there was a garden. I bet you didn't even think about that, did you? There was a garden place there. What that means is that Jesus died where we were, on the outside. That Jesus didn't get pierced in the palace. That he didn't get taunted in the temple. He gave up his ghost where the garbage lay. You see, the only way for us to get back on the inside was for God to go to the outside. That's the way it works. That's the genius of what God had planned all along. So what did God do at Golgotha? He went curb shopping. He rolled down the window and craned his neck outside, looking for something that everyone else might have just drove on past or thrown out themselves. And he picked it up for himself. Because you know what they say about one man's trash. God broke the rules. He left the place of the palace. He left the Holy of Holies. He went outside to bring in what only He could do because we couldn't get there on our own. He broke the rules, Nicole. I heard a story about that on that raft trip. That you weren't supposed to get out of your tube no matter what. Unless somebody was in great peril, you even couldn't get out of your tube. Those were the rules because you were going to be in danger. But when her son fell out of the tube, she didn't care about the rules. She jumped in and went after him because that's what a parent does. They break the rules when the rules need to be broken. They go to the outside to bring you back in, and that's what God did on our behalf. He went to the garbage heap with His window down because you're not trash. You're not garbage. You may feel like it sometimes, and you may do things sometimes that you're not proud of, but God didn't make trash, and you're not trash. And if you listen close enough, you'll hear Him coming because He's still curb shopping. This whole series long, we've tried to do something sensory. We've tried to give you something to hold on to. We've clapped. We've talked about rocks. Now we're giving you papers. And this may be the most sensory thing you can ever do because I'm here to tell you today, I came to tell you today that God's cruising your neighborhood. He doesn't want you to hang on to whatever is burdening you. He doesn't want you to hold on whatever is separating you from God Himself. He wants that barrier to be torn down today. And so you've been given a piece of paper and maybe you've already written on it, good. You don't have to show it for the world to see. If you want, you can flip it over and nail it to the cross. Or maybe you haven't written on it, and that's the most theologically profound thing you could do today is just put that blank paper up there. Because whatever it is between you and God, He's erased it clean because you're not trash. You know what they say about one man's trash. So today when you come forward, my invitation is this, that you would bring forward that sin that you've been carrying and nail it to the cross. That you would bring forward your shortcomings, whatever you feel is between you and God, that you would bring the grief or the guilt, the grudge that you're holding, that you won't let go of, the habit that you can't shake, the frustration, the fear. Hang your fears on the cross. The debt, put it there. The diagnosis, put it there. And while we sing, and you come down and you nail that to the cross, we're going to hear it as we sing about what the cross did. Because the thing that has you feeling left out is the very thing God will use to bring you back in. The thing that you think is separating you from God is actually what God intends to use to draw you back to God's self. Because no one works that way except a loving parent. No one follows those type of rules except the one who will break the rules for each of you. He's in your neighborhood. He's cruising around. And He's driving real slow. And if you have something that you need to take out, I ask you to do that now as Alex keys us all up. Because one man's trash, you're the treasure. You're the goal. You're the end game for our Heavenly Father. You're not trash, you're treasure. That's Golgotha. That's holy ground. That's the gospel.